Why, my name is John, and my life was very ordinary. Every morning I woke up, had breakfast, kissed my wife, and went to work at the office. My position as a sales manager was stable, though not particularly exciting. In the evenings I would return home, have dinner with my family, help the kids with their homework, and watch TV. In general, nothing unusual. But one day, my routine life faltered. It was Tuesday. I had just returned from work and was changing clothes when the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, Linda, and from her voice, I immediately understood that something had happened. "John, please help, I have a flood here," she shouted anxiously into the phone. "I don't know what to do. Water is everywhere." "Okay, Linda, calm down," I tried to speak evenly, although I could already feel anxiety rising inside me. What exactly happened? It turned out that a pipe had burst in Linda's house. She had tried to turn off the water but couldn't find the right valve. The situation clearly required a man's help. "Don't worry, Linda," I said, pulling on my jeans. "I'll be right over and we'll figure it out. In the meantime, try to collect the water with rags, okay?" I gave my wife a quick kiss, explained the situation on the go, and hurried to the car. On the way, I played out scenarios in my head. If the pipe had burst, I would need to find the leak, turn off the water, and call a plumber. For some reason, the thought of having to spend the evening with my mother-in-law caused a strange excitement, but I brushed it off, attributing it to stress. Pulling up to Linda's house, I saw that she was already waiting for me on the porch. Even from a distance, it was clear that she was very upset. "John, thank God you're here!" She rushed to me as soon as I got out of the car. "I didn't know what to do." Her hair was disheveled, and tears glistened on her cheeks. I awkwardly hugged her, feeling the scent of her floral perfume. "Everything will be fine," I mumbled, patting her on the back. "Let's go inside and see what's there." Entering the house, I immediately saw the scale of the disaster. Water was literally everywhere, on the floor in the hallway, in the kitchen, even in the living room. Linda had clearly tried to wipe up the puddles, but to no avail. The rags thrown haphazardly were already completely soaked. "So where's your valve?" I asked, rolling up my sleeves. "We need to turn off the water immediately." Linda pointed confusedly at the door to the basement. We went down the creaky stairs and found ourselves in a cramped, damp room. I looked around for the valve, trying to ignore the cobwebs in the corners and the musty smell. "I think that's it," I said, walking over to a large red handle on the wall. "Let me try." Turning the valve proved to be not so easy. It didn't give way at first, and I had to use all my strength. Finally, with a loud creak, it turned, and the gurgling of water upstairs stopped. "Phew, well, the first step is done," I exhaled, wiping the sweat from my forehead. "Now we need to find exactly where the pipe burst." We went back upstairs and started examining the house. Pretty soon it became clear that the leak was in the wall between the kitchen and the bathroom. The wallpaper was bubbling with moisture, and a wet spot was spreading on the floor. "Looks like the pipe is here," I said, tapping on the wall. "We'll have to open it up. Do you have any tools?" Linda found an old box with a hammer, screwdriver, and a couple of pliers. Armed with them, I began to carefully peel off the damp wallpaper. Behind it, drywall was found. It also had to be dismantled. Finally, the pipe was exposed, and I immediately saw the break, a small but obvious crack from which water was seeping. "Okay, we need to go to the store for parts," I said, examining the damage, "and at the same time, buy materials to restore the wall. I can go, and you can—" But before I could finish, Linda interrupted me. "John, maybe we should just replace all the old pipes at once. The house is already 30 years old, and I'm afraid something might burst somewhere else. I've seen on TV how it happens. It's such a nightmare." I pondered for a moment. On the one hand, I didn't want to undertake a large-scale renovation. It would cost a lot of money and be a lot of hassle. On the other hand, Linda was right. It was better to do everything thoroughly once than to come back for every leak later. "You know, you're right," I nodded after a pause. "Let's change everything at once. Now let's go to the store with you, buy pipes and fittings, and tomorrow I'll take a day off and take care of it." Linda beamed. "Really? Oh, John, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you. You're just a lifesaver. Let me give you a hug." And before I knew it, she squeezed me in an embrace. Caught off guard, I froze, feeling her soft body pressed against me and inhaling the scent of her hair. Something clicked in my chest. "Calm down," I mentally chided myself. "She's your wife's mother after all. What are you imagining?" We quickly got ready, got into the car, and drove to the hardware store. For some reason, it was awkward to stay silent, so we talked the whole way. About work, family, and even shared jokes. Linda laughed, throwing her head back, and I caught myself thinking that she was remarkably beautiful. We spent at least an hour in the store, carefully selecting pipes, couplings, seals, and other plumbing paraphernalia. Linda bombarded me with questions, and I answered with a smart look, although, to be honest, I didn't really understand all these diameters and materials myself. But I had to maintain the image of a competent man in the eyes of my mother-in-law. Having filled a whole cart with all sorts of goods, Linda insisted on taking extras, we headed to the checkout. While the cashier was ringing up our purchases, we continued to chat and joke. At one point, I turned around and caught Linda's gaze. Something flashed in her eyes, a spark that suddenly made my heart beat faster. No, it must have been my imagination, of course. Or not. The next morning, armed with tools and spare parts, I arrived at Linda's. She was already waiting, having prepared coffee and sandwiches. "I thought a repairman needs a good breakfast," she smiled, handing me a steaming mug. I gratefully accepted the coffee, trying not to notice how our fingers touched. I need to focus after all. The repairs won't do themselves. The next few hours turned into a real battle with the plumbing. I cut pipes, soldered, cursed through my teeth when something didn't work out. Linda didn't leave my side for a step, handing tools, holding a flashlight, and bringing iced lemonade during breaks. At one point, when I once again climbed under the sink, my shirt rode up. I heard Linda catch her breath. "Oh, John, you have such a muscular back," she exhaled, "just like Channing Tatum." I almost hit my head on the pipe. Channing Tatum, seriously? No, I definitely hadn't misheard. Linda's voice was filled with undisguised admiration. I crawled out from under the sink, trying not to look my mother-in-law in the eye. My cheeks were burning. My heart was pounding like crazy. What the hell is going on? Is she flirting with me? Or have I completely lost my mind from all this pipe work? "Linda, what are you doing?" I mumbled, brushing off my jeans. "What, Tatum? What a comparison you found!" But she only smiled slyly, and with a wink went into the room. And I was left standing, stunned and confused. Okay, I need to wrap up this repair as soon as possible. Otherwise, a little more and I won't be responsible for myself. The next day I woke up with one thought. I need to finish this pipe saga as soon as possible, because a couple more suggestive hints from Linda and something will happen that absolutely cannot be allowed. Or can it? Damn, what am I even thinking about? I burst into my mother-in-law's house like a hurricane, immediately grabbed the tools, climbed under the bathtub, and began fiercely tightening the last connections. Linda barely had time to hand me wrenches and shake her head in surprise. I managed surprisingly quickly, in just a couple of hours. With a sense of accomplishment, I crawled out from under the bathtub, wiped the sweat from my forehead, and said, "Well, that's it, done. Check how it works." Linda turned on the faucet with a smile, and from it, as if by magic, clean water poured out. No leaks, no gurgling. Everything was perfect. "John, you're a wizard," she exclaimed, clasping her hands. "I didn't even dream that everything would be so fast and so great. You're just my hero!" And before I could figure out what was happening, she hugged me impulsively. Just like that, wet, sweaty, smelling of sewage, and instead of pulling away, I suddenly pulled her close. I don't know what came over me. This hug lasted longer than it should have. I felt the heat of her body, heard her breathing, and at some point realized that I desperately wanted to kiss her. No, not just wanted to. I had to do it. Otherwise, I would simply die on the spot. Apparently, Linda felt the same way, because the next moment our lips met, at first timidly, uncertainly, but with each second more and more passionately. It was like an explosion, a blinding flash, an avalanche that could no longer be stopped. We kissed frantically, greedily, as if for the last time. Her hands caressed my back, mine wandered over her body, shamelessly, openly. At one point we froze, breathing heavily and looking into each other's eyes. At that moment, I clearly realized that we had crossed a line from which there was no return. No matter what happened next, we could never be the same again. Too much had happened. We had gone too far. "John, what have we done?" Linda whispered, and her voice held both horror and delight. I didn't know what to say. My thoughts were scattered. My heart was pounding like crazy. I should have said that it was a mistake, that we shouldn't, that I love my wife. But all I could manage was to pull Linda close and exhale. I don't know, but I don't regret it. The next few days blurred into a feverish, chaotic dream. We met in secret, taking advantage of every opportunity, pretending that I needed to finish something in the house, although we had finished everything long ago, coming up with ridiculous excuses just to snatch a couple more hours together. We made love, passionately, feverishly, without thinking about the consequences. We were so good together, so intoxicating. I had no idea that one could experience such feelings, such a crazy attraction. With my wife, everything had long since become routine, a habit. But here, it was like a volcano, like a storm. At the same time, we hardly talked. We both understood that unnecessary words would only ruin everything, because there was nothing to say, really. Our relationship had no future, and we both knew it. I would leave the house early in the morning while my wife was still asleep. On the way to the office, I tried to put my thoughts and feelings in order, to get into a working mood. But it was all in vain. Linda and our crazy meetings wouldn't leave my mind. At work, I was not myself. I forgot about meetings, got confused with numbers, answered inappropriately. Colleagues gave me sidelong glances but didn't dare to ask. And for the better. You can't tell about such things over a cup of coffee. The atmosphere at home also thickened. My wife sensed my detachment, saw that I was not myself. She tried to talk to me, to find out what was wrong. But I just brushed it off, citing problems at work. I was ashamed to look her in the eye, and at the same time, I didn't care. Because my heart and mind were there with Linda. Our happiness was short-lived, only a week. Very soon it was time to return to our usual life, to our former roles of exemplary son-in-law and loving mother-in-law. My vacation was over, and there was no longer an excuse to stay at Linda's. On the last day, we made love with particular passion and tenderness. We understood that this was the end, and we tried to remember, to absorb each other. Every touch, every kiss was both a gift and a farewell. As I was leaving, I held Linda in my arms for a long time, kissing her face, wet with tears. We agreed to never talk about what had happened between us, to leave these days as a beautiful dream, a magical secret for two, to be grateful for the happiness that life had given us, and to come to terms with the fact that it was fleeting. "I will always keep this in my heart," Linda whispered to me as we parted. "And so will I thought, walking out the door, until the end of my days." In the first days after our breakup, it seemed to me that the world had dimmed. The office routine, home, the faces of loved ones, everything looked faded and uninteresting. Only memories of Linda, of our meetings, made my heart beat faster. I missed her like crazy. Her smell, the taste of her lips, our conversations and laughter. Sometimes when I was alone in the evenings, I would take out my phone and look at our photos together. The ones we had secretly taken in bed, disheveled, happy, having completely ceased to be mother-in-law and son-in-law. A man and a woman, burning with passion for each other. But the days went by, and the sharpness of the loss gradually dulled. Life took its toll. Work, home, friends, the usual joys and sorrows. And one day I caught myself thinking that I hadn't thought about Linda for several days. It was almost physically painful, as if I had betrayed our love. But at the same time, I understood that this was how it should be. It's impossible to remain faithful to a fleeting infatuation for a lifetime, no matter how bright it was. We continued to see each other with Linda at family celebrations and dinners. But now we were just mother-in-law and son-in-law, kind relatives, nothing more. Our eyes would sometimes meet, and in Linda's eyes, I saw the same thing I felt myself. Infinite tenderness, gratitude for the happiness given, and acceptance that all good things must come to an end. Our affair remained a secret. No one suspected anything, and thank God for that. I still love my wife, and am grateful to her for our marriage, for our children, for the life we have built together. I know that Linda also values our family and would not want to destroy anything. But those days spent together forever changed me. I realized that there is always a place in life for miracles, for bright flashes, for crazy passion. And these moments are more precious than any obligations and proprieties. I learned to look at the world and people with different eyes, to notice the beauty and uniqueness of each person, to appreciate the gift that fate gives us, even if it's a fleeting affair with a woman old enough to be your mother. I am grateful to Linda for teaching me to love, feel, and desire anew, for giving me a whirlwind of unforgettable emotions and sensations, for making me feel alive, perhaps for the first time in my life. I know that our story cannot have a continuation. Linda will forever remain my secret, my sweet dream. The woman who burst into my life for only a moment, but managed to turn everything upside down. I don't regret anything, because I know that in that brief moment, I experienced what everyone strives for. A crazy, impossible, forbidden love, the memory of which warms you for a lifetime. Sleep well, my love. Wherever you are, you will forever be in my heart. We can never be together, but I will always keep you in my memory, as a magical dream that gave me wings. And one day, beyond the edge of life, we will meet again, and nothing will be able to separate us. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.